Okay, so let's look at how you can make triangle, revolved triangle, or reverse triangle, chair pose and pigeon pose a little bit more accessible for people. So I like to use a chair for these poses. These are not poses that we're going to do on the chair. I can show you those another time, but just with use of a chair to kind of help make it less intense of a pose, to help to protect the body, to help protect the pelvis when we're practicing triangle and revolved triangle. And just to kind of build stability in people, rather than if it goes into a more advanced pose, it can be often just about balance and, you know, struggling to find balance and using all your effort and kind of missing the opening that's available from these poses. So we've got a chair and it's facing me on the mat. I've got all four corners of the chair on the sticky mat, so there's no risk of it kind of sliding away. And I've got the seat facing me. And I'm going to have my feet, I'm going to have them quite close to the edge of the chair. I'm going to have the feet under the hips. That's already making it more accessible, not having the feet together, but having space between the feet. So I've got my feet under my hips, and my hips are facing the chair. Now, first of all, I'm just going to step my left leg back, directly back from where it is. So it's not going to be in line with the right leg, it's just going to step directly back. And you'll find that the foot will naturally turn out to about 45 degrees. And then I'm going to reach my hand down and place my hand on the edge of the chair. So I'm still sort of facing forward. Maybe I'm facing with my chest a little bit to the left, like 45 degrees. And my hip can stay like that. I don't need to move my hip back and yank into my sacroiliac joint or into my inner thigh there. I can keep my left hip sort of facing 45 degrees, more towards the front than towards the side. But from there I can start to open the top part of the body. So you could start with your hand on your heart, and you could try to lift your heart and rotate your rib cage to the left. Or you could have your hand on your hip and try and roll the shoulder blade back, lifting the left ribs up. You can have your hand on your shoulder, lifting the elbow up, again trying to rotate the ribs. Hand on the head, giving them even more of a stretch on the side, or hand up into the sky. Now the bottom hand here, my right hand, I'm going to make sure that my shoulder is rolling back and down so I'm not sinking forward into it, and I'm really nice and open in my collarbones. I'm not even going to try and look up because that's quite a lot of work for the neck. I'm going to draw my throat back and lengthen the back of my neck, and I'm just going to hold there. And if I wanted a bit more, I turn my palm towards my head, and I could take my arm alongside the ear, and then I'm really lengthening from that left hip all the way to the left fingertips. So we can come back in reverse wherever you got to. Head, shoulder, knees and toes, no, ribs, hip, heart. And then you can just allow your ribs, left ribs, to sink towards the floor, and then step your left foot forward. And then standing up straight, we can do the whole thing on the other side. So you take your right foot back. It doesn't have to be a very wide stance. You don't have to be really wide. You'll find that your right toes turn out a little bit. And then I'm going to place my left hand down on the chair. And I'm going to again start the process again. My right hand on my heart, just turning the rib cage as much as I can, or the hip, or the ribs, or the shoulder, or the head, all up to the sky. And then the bottom arm, you see, it's kind of naturally, the shoulder sinks forward. I'm going to roll that back and down. So I feel a really big openness in my chest. I'm going to draw my throat back. I might then go for the more intense version of the side stretch. Really deep breaths. Then I can come back in reverse and stay as long as you like. And then letting that right rib sink, and then stepping forward and coming up. And that just gives a really nice opening without kind of hurting the joints of the pelvis. So then for a revolved triangle, reverse triangle, this is a really tricky pose. And it's quite risky. I think it's quite a dangerous pose for lots of us. If we try and do the full version and we haven't got that openness available in the body, it can actually hurt more than help. So what we can do with this is again step the left foot back, same as before, but this time you're going to keep the hips pointing forwards. And then hands on the hips just to help you, pressing into that front foot to stabilise you. You can try to lean the chest forward as if you're coming down with a nice flat back. And you can come and bring your hands on the chair. You might want your chair a bit closer to you, but you've got really active feet, both feet pressing into the floor. And then what we can do is, you can just keep hold of the side of the chair with the left hand, and you can allow the twist. You're going to twist to the right, but you can allow the twist to start from that left buttock. We don't have to balance the teacup on the sacrum. We don't have to keep the sacrum where it is and twist the rib cage. You can allow that left hip. We're still trying to bring the left hip forward and the right hip back so that they're even. They're both pointing forward. But when we get forward, then we can let that left buttock drop. Let the right buttock lift up. And you can start with maybe your right hand on your hip, and you can start to twist the rib cage. Start to twist the pelvis, the rib cage, the shoulders, so that then you can take your hand again. It can be on your lower back. If you want to squeeze the shoulder blade back, be on your hip, be on your shoulder, be on your head. It can be up in the sky. And you can also do that down on the elbow. If you wanted to get a little bit lower down, you can twist, leaning on the forearm, twisting into that revolved triangle. And then again, you can hold on to the sides of the chair. You can bring the left foot forward and step the right foot back. And then your hips are still facing the front. You're going to reach the tailbone back, the chest forward, and you can start that process of dropping the right hip, lifting the left hip, dropping the right ribs, lifting the left ribs, lifting the heart to the left, taking the left arm up. And again, if you wanted to, I'd bring my hand back to the chair to get my forearm down, right forearm down, so that I'm stable enough to move into twisted triangle. And again, I'm not going to look up, it's too much. I'm going to keep it soft and gentle and feel like I'm really opening all the tissues of the outside of that left hip. And then we can come down. Again, you find the position that suits your body, and you bring the hands either side of the chair and you step the foot forward and you gently come up. Okay, so the next one is the chair pose. So chair pose is really, really quite strenuous. Traditionally, knees together, feet together, everything together, sinking down really low, making that right angle in the legs, then lifting up. Some people even teach to tuck the tailbone under at that point. Very, very hard to do. And a lot of times, if you've got an imbalance in the right and left sides, then you're struggling all the time to just keep even. The easiest thing to get the body out of that kind of struggle for stability and into like actually working the muscles is to pop a block in between the knees. And then you can sink down. You kind of sink the bum back and the chest forward as if you're sitting down in a chair. And already your legs aren't kind of doing this kind of calibration to find your balance. So already that's easier. And you can again do this, so it looks a bit like this. You can let the tailbone go out the back. You can lift the chest, it's fine. It can be like a slight back extension. And you want to keep more of the weight on the heels. It's like, naturally, if you're sitting down on the chair, this is what you do. You can have hands on hips, hands on heart. You could have your hands forward. You can even lift them up, which is the most strenuous, taking a long line. But what you can do, if you want to work those muscles, want to activate them, you can sit right to the edge of the chair, and you're going to have your heels on the floor. They might need to be a little bit further back so that you can transfer your weight onto them, because we're going to practice just releasing the chair, moving your weight off the chair, and then taking it back. And so what we can do is take the arms back, lean the chest forward, step onto the heels, and as you inhale, lift the arms up, and as you exhale, taking the arms back and the bottom back. You have to make sure that the chair is still there, the chair is stable, so that you're not going to fall on the floor. But just doing a few of these is just activating all the muscles in the thighs to develop for a nice chair pose. Maybe you can stay there for a little bit. Maybe you never get the arms up, maybe they're out in front of you. Maybe you're just going backwards and forwards. Maybe you're a bit frightened that the chair's not there, and you can just be doing that, shifting the weight from the bottom to the heels. And that's a really nice way of doing chair pose. And you're developing the same muscles, but you're doing it safely and slowly and softly, so it's actually more beneficial. Okay, last one is the pigeon pose. And we can use the chair again for the pigeon pose. So pigeon pose is quite risky for hips and knees, and especially if you're doing the pigeon pose where you're kind of flat on the floor, you're adding a bit of gravity there, adding a bit more risk. So when you do it from a chair, again, I'm sitting to the edge of the chair, I'm not sitting back. I'm going to keep my right foot and the right heel under the right knee, and it's pressing into the floor, and I'm just going to bring the left foot up. And I've got the ankle bone, that's clear of the leg, so that I've got movement in my foot. So it's just above the ankle bone, and it's just above the right knee. And I'm going to encourage this left thigh to externally rotate, so rotate outwards, so that knee is coming down towards the floor. I mean, it might be up here, it might be down there, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to encourage these left toes to move back towards the knee, just so that the knee joint is a bit more stable, and it's not going to, if I go forward and the knee comes down, it's not going to be from twisting the knee, it's going to be from more rotation of the thigh. So it just kind of allows that little bit of protection in most bodies. So I can have my hands on my hips, and I can just start by pushing the pubic bone forward and down and reaching the chest forward, and already I'm feeling a big stretch on the outside of my hips, and I can take that as far as I want. I could come forward depending on how it's feeling. There's no pain sensation in the knee. I might be able to then lean down into it, but I don't recommend doing that if there's any, all the sensation needs to be in the back of the body rather than the knee. And then also you might be able to go all the way down and touch the floor, or you might have blocks on the floor that you place your hands on if you wanted to add a bit of gravity, or you might want to resist gravity. It's enough. I'm not going to let my body fall down. I'm just going to sit here and lean my pelvis forward, and that's enough for me. And then you can place that left foot back and turn to the right foot. And again, don't expect the same thing. My right side is extremely stiff from a bad accident I had, all down the right side. So my right knee is automatically further up. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to make them even. Those days are beyond me. My right ankle is free and clear of the left thigh, so there's all this movement in the foot. I can press the ball of the foot forward and pull the toes back. Therefore, it means that there's less movement available to my knee joint. My hands on my hips. I'm going to first of all try with my intention, with my hands, to tilt the pelvis. So that's slide the tailbone back, chest forward, pubic bone down. And I'm already feeling quite a strong stretch, so I might stay here. And I'm resisting gravity by pressing the left foot into the floor and lifting the chest up, and that's giving me a strong stretch. Or if it's comfortable, you can lean down, apply as much gravity as you want, maybe even go to the floor. So going to the floor allows your knee to stay up a little bit, but it can open up these tissues. Or staying up a little bit, but trying to find that kind of weighting of the knee as long as there's no pain sensation of the knee and it's opening in the hip. So we can stay there a few breaths and then come back. And those 4 postures will give you lots of health and openness in the whole of the hip area. So we've worked the fronts of the thighs, we've worked the inner thighs with triangle, outer thighs with revolved triangle, these deep rotator muscles with pigeon. And yeah, it gives you a bit more stability. It gives you a sense that you could be part of a yoga class if you couldn't do the real thing. If there's a chair available in your yoga class, just ask for it. Don't feel embarrassed about it. If there's not a chair, you can kind of use the wall. If you're facing a wall, you can use the wall quite a lot. But hopefully this is empowering. You can take your power back in a yoga class, not feel like you can't do things. There's always a way of doing things. And if you're a teacher, you can empower your students by giving them these other alternatives. So thank you very much. That's it for me. See you next time.